And this is how we do it on Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio high school football coverage. Week 7 recap, and we'll get to the Suburban League in a minute, but Josh playing that song because the Cleveland Indians, Coco Chris just hit a, what was it, a 2-run shot?
2-run shot.
4-1 Cleveland right now. And I can't tell what inning it is now.
I think it's because I'm wearing an Indian
Top
shirt.
of 6, Rob.
I think you might be the lucky stone. Yeah, in the 6th inning.
I've seen them show this play 8,000 times like they did that stupid double that just happened to cut the lead in half because they showed that. They showed it from that view. They showed it from the third baseman coach view. Then they showed a third baseman coach because apparently that was a very aggressive move on his part. Anyways, week 7
yeah,
of the Suburban League.
Yeah, we could talk about the Indians all day.
Ed's in playoff intensity mode right now.
But we're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. I'm Rob Trott. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, and Josh Jeffy live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio. The Suburban League National Division, where we know Stowe and Hudson are the powerhouses. And I'll tell you what, they might have had an ESPN Classic game this week that Ed's going to cover, and I can't wait to hear it. But, Ed, a lot of other good games, too, in the Suburban League.
Yeah, week 7's in the books, and there was plenty of offensive firepower around the league. We'll actually start in Twinsburg as the one-win Tigers hosted the 3-3 Wadsworth Grizzlies in a Thursday night affair. This was a back-and-forth game all night long as neither team was able to pull away. Twinsburg started the scoring off with a 1-yard touchdown plunge by Cameron McLean, the first of 2 rushing touchdowns for the game for McLean. Wadsworth wide receiver Craig Paladar had a sensational game, and he brought the Grizzlies back with a 60-yard touchdown reception from quarterback Joey Bachman, the first of 3 receiving touchdowns for the night for Paladar. After trading scores the whole game, Wadsworth was finally able to take the lead for good when Paladar busted up the middle and blocked Jalen Tucker's punt back into the end zone, where it went out of bounds for their second safety of the night. With just over 2 minutes to play, accounting for the final score, Wadsworth 38, Twinsburg 36. Both teams had tremendous individual efforts as Wadsworth quarterback Joey Bachman completed 19 of 34 passing for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. All 3 passing touchdowns went to Craig Paladar, who caught 10 passes for a Wadsworth record 213 yards. His 3 scores covered 60, 24, and 55 yards. Definitely MVP candidate there, both Bachman and Paladar for that matter. Twinsburg running back Cameron McLean rushed for 2 touchdowns, and sophomore quarterback Adam Van de Mater threw for 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. Wadsworth moves to 4-3 overall, 3-1 in the conference. They will travel to Brecksville-Broadview Heights. Twinsburg drops to 1-6 overall, 1-3 in the conference. They will host Hudson. Next, we head to North Royalton Serpentini Field, where the 1-5 Bears hosted the undefeated Brecksville-Broadview Heights Bees in the game for the Golden Shoe. North Royalton did get a quick turnover early and capitalized with Jake Francis' 7-yard touchdown run to give the Bears a 7-0 lead. Brecksville Bees running back Alex Buckley followed with 2 touchdown runs, one from 1 yard out and one from 76. Bears freshman quarterback Joe Marusik tied the score at 14 with a 7-yard run just before the Bees were able to put the game to bed with 4 consecutive touchdowns to go up 42-14, eventually leading to the final score of Brecksville-Broadview Heights 50, North Royalton 34. For the Bees, wide receiver Sam Wiglu's caught 2 touchdown passes from quarterback Luke Sternad. Bears quarterback Joe Marusik ran for three touchdowns and threw for another. Brecksville-Broadview Heights is 7-0 overall, 4-0 in the conference. They will host Wadsworth. The Bees currently sit 7th in Division II, Region 5. North Royalton drops to 1-6 overall, 0-4 in the conference. They will travel to Macedonia, Nordonia. Speaking of the Knights traveled to Cuyahoga Falls, where both teams were looking for their first conference win. The Knights did get a stiff challenge from the Black Tigers, leading just 20-14 at the half. Knights running back Anthony Perrine rushed for 2 touchdowns. Quarterback Robbie Levick threw for 2 more, and the Nordonia Knights take out the Black Tigers 37-20 over a very game Cuyahoga Falls squad. Nordonia improves to 3-4 overall, 1-3 in the conference. They will host North Royalton. Cuyahoga Falls drops to 1-6 overall, 0-4 in the conference. They will travel to Stow-Munroe Falls. leading to the Week 7 game of the week for the Suburban League National Division, pitting undefeated Stow-Munroe Falls, traveling to Hudson in a rematch of last year's tightly contested battle. To the winner goes an inside track of the Suburban League National Division title and a healthy pile of computer points. The highly anticipated battle between Stow's offense and Hudson's defense did not disappoint. In fact, the Explorers struck first on a special teams play, a 57-yard punt return for a touchdown by Colin Paltani. Stowe quarterback Kyle Van Treese then connected with wide receiver Joe Andrazi for an 86-yard touchdown strike to tie the game at 7 in the first quarter. Stowe then put up 10 points in the second quarter, a 26-yard field goal by Austin Burnham, and a 22-yard run by Andrazi from a direct snap. In the third quarter, Stowe pushes the lead to 24-7 on a touchdown pass from Kyle Van Treese to Logan Lindsay from 4 yards out. Hudson kicker Grant Gagne connected from 30 yards out to cut the lead to 24-10 and set up a scintillating fourth quarter for the Hudson Explorers. The defense was able to hold the Bulldogs at bay. Colt Palais, working in a quarterback rotation with Jackson Parker, connected on 2 touchdown passes to Greg Maley in the last 4 minutes of the game, covering 28 and 23 yards respectively. After the second score, Hudson decides to go for 2, and the win, Jackson Parker hit Maley again to give the Explorers a 25-24 lead with just over 2 minutes left in the game. The defense did hold their ground. Hudson was able to avenge their loss from last season, handing the Stowe Bulldogs their first loss of this season, a 25-24 comeback victory. Hudson's play completed 11 of 17 passing for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stowe's Kyle Van Treese connected on 9 of 21 passing for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe Andracy caught 6 passes for 172 yards and a touchdown. He also added 38 yards rushing and a touchdown. With the win, Hudson moves to 6-1 overall, 4-0 in the conference. They sit in 6th place in Division II, Region 5. Next week, they will host Twinsburg. Stow-Munroe Falls drops to 6-1 overall, 3-1 in the conference. The Bulldogs are number 5 in Division I, Region 1. They will host Cuyahoga Falls. Guys, lots of individual efforts here on for this week. My Week 7 player of the week is going to be Craig Paladar from Wadsworth. He had 10 catches for 213 yards and 3 touchdowns in a winning effort. My Week 8 game of the week will be Wadsworth traveling to undefeated Brecksville-Broadview Heights.
Wow.
Lots of good stuff going on in the National Division. My cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy is going to take it over for the Suburban League American Division.
Thank you very much, Ed. And we'll have to see Sean.
There we go. I guess
Yeah.
I'll have to borrow Mike. I don't know what's going on
Yeah,
with
we'll
mine.
check.
All right, well, we'll start off first with Aurora at Revere. Mac Austin rushed for 4 touchdowns, while Gavin Blunt threw for 3 more on Friday as as host. Aurora Greenman extended its winning streak with a 49-21 drubbing of Revere in the Suburban League American Division. Mac Austin rushed for 197 yards and threw for 300 yards as the Greenmen moved to 6-1 overall and 4-0 in league play. Aurora will look for its 7th consecutive victory next week as they travel to Copley, while the Minutemen, who dropped to 4-3 and 1-3 in conference play, will look to get a victory against non-conference Garfield Heights at home next week. Moving on, we have Kent Roosevelt taking on non-conference Garfield Heights, and Kent Roosevelt was able to hold off a late surge by Garfield Heights to secure its 2nd win of the season. Roosevelt's now 2-5 on the season and 1-2 in the Suburban League American Division, and they will host Barberton in Week 8. My next game on slate is Talmadge, the Blue Devils, going into Barberton to face the Magics. And Barberton, believe it or not, finally got its first Suburban League win in the division on Friday when they rolled past Talmadge 37-6. Barberton got things rolling as it converted a long 4th down on its opening drive and capped it off with a 1-yard touchdown run by Kobe Booker. Barberton controlled the rest of the half and held a 24-0 lead at halftime. The Talmadge Blue Devils were able to put together an 80-yard drive at the beginning of the second half, but that was all she wrote for the Talmadge offense. They could not muster a score the rest of the way, and the Magics rolled to an easy victory. Kobe Booker had himself a night, rushed for a touchdown, caught a touchdown pass, returned an interception 95 yards for a touchdown. He led the Magics in scoring. Not to be outdone, quarterback Zane Reese threw for 325 yards and 2 touchdowns, and wide receiver running back Key Thompson caught 5 passes for 100 yards and a touchdown for the Magics, and the Magics improved to 5-2 overall and 1-2 in the American Conference. My Week 8 spotlight game was Copley at Highland, and for all you Highland folks out there who's used to seeing shutouts, unfortunately, you were on the receiving end of a very bad night. Copley's defense that had only given up 16 points or less 3 times this year took it out on the Hornets that night. Aside from a 65-yard scoring drive in the final 2 minutes, the game was pretty much out of reach for the Hornets, and they weren't able to do much offensively. The stars for Highland, Evan Castellanos and Chris Burnside, never really got anything going offensively. I think Castellanos ended up with 10 carries for only 20 yards and 4 catches for 57 yards, while on the flip side, Chris Burnside only had 19 carries and 70 yards, way down from their weekly average. And Copley's defense was kind of the story tonight. They were able to turn 2 interception returns, 1 for a touchdown, and they were able to give their offense great field position, which they were able to capitalize. This game was deceiving when we were watching it or when we were following it, because at one point with about 10 minutes to go, it was 16-10, and you thought this game could go either way. But unfortunately, miscues by Highland's offense and a very, very good effort by Copley's defense was able to secure a win for Copley, setting up a very interesting matchup next week when Copley welcomes Aurora. Copley's running back and Michigan State commitment Weston Bridges had a pretty good game and a very important game for him, as he went over 1,000 yards rushing for the season and over 3,000 yards in his career. Obviously, people in East Lansing are excited about this guy coming up there because he's a runner, he's a workhorse. That's great. He did have a touchdown on the night. He finished with 164 yards and 26 carries. But unfortunately, like I said, it was just Copley's defense all over Highland. The loss dropped Highland to 5-2 and 1-2, and it also may have cost Highland an opportunity to control their own playoff destiny, as they are kind of on the outside looking in, and they're going to need some help to get into the 8th spot for the playoff coming up in a couple of weeks. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my Week 7 MVP, and it's going to go with quarterback Zane Reese of Barberton, 325 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I also want to give a special shout-out to Kobe Booker. The guy, scored on a rushing touchdown, passing touchdown, and on an interception return. Obviously, if I'm not giving you chocolate milk, you're getting some tonight. That's the way that you should get some from your coach. Big night for him. But unfortunately, like I said, you got to go with the QB. Unfortunately, they pay the bills. So quarterback Zane Reese is my MVP of Week 7. And my spotlight game for Week 8, I'm going to go Barberton at Roosevelt. Like I said, I'm interested to see if Kent Roosevelt can continue their winning streak, and maybe Barberton is maybe looking past this game in the future, who they have to play the week after. So this is an interesting game to me. But guys, looking at the American Division, you got to feel for Highland, because they were kind of at the lower end of that region. I believe they're in Region 6, I believe. And, right now they're sitting at 10. And they're like we mentioned with the Southwestern Conference, Westlake is in the driver's seat at 8. If they win out, unfortunately, Highland can't really do anything. So they need both Glenville and Westlake to lose, but they also need to win. Now, the good thing with with Highland is they've already played Aurora. They've already played, Copley. So their schedule sets up in the way that if they take care of business, and they play Barberton at Barberton in Week 9, but that's sandwiched in between Talmadge and Roosevelt. So, Highland is going to take care of business at Talmadge this week. But again, they gotta win out, and unfortunately, they're going to be relying on other teams to help them get into the playoff push.
Yeah.
My other 2 teams in this league are Aurora and Copley, and they're sitting comfortably at 2 and 3 in Region 5, and really that's going to shake out after this week's big matchup between the 2 of them. And that's going to be an interesting game to follow, because those are really two good offenses, really good defenses on both sides. It may be one of those 10-6, 10-7, 13-7 games, or it could go the other way, and it could be a complete blowout one way or the other. But it's going to be a very interesting game to see, and, we should keep a special eye on that. What do you think, guys?
Well, I think Highland doesn't want to rely on other teams. I mean, they need to win out, and maybe they can, catapult their way into the top 8. But, tough week for them. If they would have won that game, that would have been an absolute huge win and a lot of points there. And I think we're going to start talking more about points as the season goes on, especially weeks 8 through 10. It's such a crucial time, and there's some big games. And you hope, like you said, you can't be a team that looks ahead, because if you do that, as soon as you do, one of those teams that might really, they're not fighting for anything, but at the same point, why not knock one of the top powers down? So, I thought the Stow-Hudson game in the National Division was a great game. Those are two powerhouses that just know how to win and know how to get it done. Like you said, Aurora and Copley, they really set themselves apart. And we saw Barberton, and Barberton's a tough team that we got to see in person. It seems like they kind of have fallen off the table a little bit with a few losses there. But like you said, a lot of these teams need to get some big wins. And same with, you look at Brecksville. Brecksville, they give up a lot of points, but, other teams need to be able to stop their offense as well.
Well, Brecksville's in an interesting situation. This is a must-win for them this week against Wadsworth, because Week 9 and Week 10 for Brecksville-Broadview Heights is at Stow and hosting Hudson. So the two other, the two other top dogs in that conference are waiting for Brecksville-Broadview Heights. And this is the same situation that they ran into last year, where they were able to build up a pretty good record. They ended up taking a loss at some point in time before they got to Stow and Hudson, and they just missed the playoffs. Because, unfortunately, they're not getting a lot of help from their second-level points. Garfield Heights and Brunswick aren't providing them with the points that they're used to getting from the second level. So it's going to be, for Brecksville-Broadview Heights, their next 3-game stretch is no joke. Wadsworth is on a roll right now. They won 3 straight games.
And they got the who did they get back?
Alex Jones.
Yeah, he's been pretty big for them.
Absolutely, and he wasn't even that big of a factor in this last game against North Royalton. But I think just his threat makes Joey Bachman that much better. And since he's been back, Bachman's been throwing up some sick numbers. Back to when he started the season against Ashland, when he had that breakout performance there. So we'll see. With Wadsworth, Brecksville-Broadview Heights is on their horizon. Same with Hudson and Nordonia. So we got some of these teams that are just outside the playoffs or barely hanging on. They're going to have some tough matchups coming up here soon, and this might be a situation where, unfortunately, the Suburban League might eat itself up, and we might end up with only 2 playoff teams instead of 3 or 4.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, too, because, there's a lot of good teams for both divisions in there, and you want to see almost the same situation in Region 5 and Region 6 that we see, with the Southwestern Conference. You like to see the Suburban League represented well in there, and right now they are. I mean, you got – 4 teams in there right now for Region 5, Division 2. So I mean, it's impressive, but definitely it's going to be interesting the rest of the way. So it's going to be fun scoreboard watching, not only for the coaches but for us as well.
That's right. Well, right now we're going to step away, take a short break, and when we come back, he is head coach of the Fayetteville Rockets. Coach Finch is going to join us here, talk a little football down south. When we come back, we're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. It's our Ohio High School football coverage. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.